Now let's get to the spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum. This is the next thing here. The electromagnetic spectrum is this guy right here. It's all the flavors of light. Here they are. No more, no less. These are they. Radio waves are over here with the, would you call this a big frequency or a low frequency? This is not very, this is high frequency, so this would be low frequency. If this is the low frequency, what kind of wavelength would it have? If it has a low frequency, then it would have a high wavelength. Alright, so the biggest wavelength one are the radio waves. And we have a government agency that likes to regulate light. And even though regulation is sometimes annoying, it's actually good that we have something called the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, that decides which versions of light each product or company can use. So channel, NBC can use this wavelength here, and CBS and ABC, and your favorite radio station here, and your remote control car can use this one, and they break it all up, and the police can use this one. Now when you get to here, well, we're out of radio waves. Now it's acting like microwaves. So you'll be cooking things. So anyway, then here's for microwaves, and it has other uses, and we'll talk about it, but you work your way down. So because there's only so many frequencies here we can use, we need people to divide up who can use which ones and broadcast at what strength. All right, so let's take them each at a turn. They're all light. The only difference, they all travel at the speed of light. They all are released in those photon packages. They all move as transverse waves. They do all those things that we just said. They're all born the same way. However, the only difference is their frequencies, wavelengths. Those are different, but it also affects how well they travel through walls and certain things. You can code messages into all of these. You can make a remote control that uses radio waves, microwaves, infrared rays, visible light, ultra. You could use all of these, like X-rays. You could do them all. Let's take a look. So for radio waves, it's the biggest wavelength. Anything that goes wider than this is still a radio wave. So as I leave this screen and it gets wider and wider, it's still considered a radio wave. Your wireless internet uses radio waves. It's not just for radios. Televisions, when you broadcast up to space with your cable satellite, that's radio waves. And yes, it's also used for radios. One of the beautiful things about radio waves is it can go through walls. You ever appreciate that your garage door opener, you don't have to point that at your garage? You could be driving towards your house or away from your house, you push the button, garage door works. It blasts everywhere. It goes through your body, it goes through your car, it goes through your garage door. There's a little wire hanging from your garage door inside your garage. Your remote goes right through your garage door. You don't have to, hey mom, you're in the way of a remote. You don't have to worry about that with a radio wave. I'm on the phone, get out of the way. You're in between me and the cell tower. You don't have to worry about that. You can receive a text with your phone in your pocket. You could eat your phone and receive text inside your stomach. It would work because radio waves go through things. Now if you try to send it through a whole mountain, it's going to have trouble. So there is a limit of how thick it can get through. But through walls and regular things, it's just fine. So radio waves are highly coveted. So that's how we can code information into it. Microwaves, you can also code information, but microwaves, do they go through walls? Do they go through walls? I sure hope not, because when I'm popping popcorn, I don't want the microwaves leaving that door and cooking me. So microwaves get blocked by walls. They don't go through things. You can use these for communication as well. Just like they make walkie-talkies with radio waves, they make walkie-talkies with microwaves. Now why would you do that? They don't go through walls. Don't you want your signal to go everywhere when you want to communicate with somebody? Why would I want a walkie-talkie that gets blocked? What if I'm a sniper? Or I'm just like, spying on a bad guy down wherever. All right. And I want to talk to headquarters. And I'm in the grass and creeping around, and my binoculars, and doing all the whole thing. And then all of a sudden, I call on my walkie-talkie. Now I start talking. Now, it might be encrypted so that nobody else knows what I'm saying. However, if I press that button, I've released a burst of light. The enemy walking around on their walls hears this. They say, something's going on out there. Someone's out there. I don't know what they're saying, but there's someone out there. Hey guys, we need to get inside. Everybody come inside, and we're gonna go. Then we're gonna go send out the people and find that guy hiding out there in the grass. So what I would like to do is to be able to direct my signal towards headquarters away from the bad guys, so they don't get any blast of static. But I can send my entire signal up to a satellite or over that way to my buddy that's over there in that tree. But I can direct it and I can block it. With the radio waves, I press a button, I can't block it. I can't get in the way of it. It's going to go right through my body. So there is an advantage for some situations to have light that you can block. But also we can use it for cooking. It heats up, it moves the water molecules in your food. Okay, infrared. So we're working our way down, smaller wavelength, higher frequency. This is the light that you and I make. I make infrared light. You can't see it right now because, well, you're blind to it, and I'm blind to it. But infrared light, this is the light that thermal goggles can pick up, because we produce light from our heat. Infrared light is what your TV remote uses. Can your TV remote go through objects? If somebody's in the way as you're fast forwarding through a commercial, and then mom in all of her rudeness is vacuuming the house at this most important time, I mean, how selfish is that, right, mom? So she's in the way of the television, and her body's in the way because infrared light doesn't pass through her. Radio waves could, microwaves could not, infrared cannot. But we do send information though, don't we? We're sending information to the television, into the radio, into whatever else, the DVR and whatever else. So we're sending, we can send whatever information we want. We can code it in there, encrypt it. Music or internet or whatever. So that's infrared. When they swipe your forehead with the thermometer, infrared light, it's picking up your infrared light. All right. Visible light. Visible light is the stuff that we're familiar with. It's the flavor of light that we all just knew right from the start. You know, that bright stuff. If you had different eyeballs, perhaps you could see this thing. That'd be a lot of information. That'd be annoying if you could see radio waves. Why? Because when you go to shut your eyes at night, what would you see? Oh, that cell tower is so bright. Close the curtains. Wait, the curtains don't block it. Oh man, and the television. Oh, turn off your cell phone. Stop sending texts. I'd see flashes, and so even when I shut my eyes. But here's the visible light. That's what we can see. This is the rainbow. The rainbow, Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. This is the stuff we see. It's this thin sliver. This is our reality. When in reality, the whole is the reality. But this is what we say. Oh, this is what's normal. This is the real stuff. This is the fake stuff. No, this is all real light. It's just that our eyeballs are only able to see this, and we are blind to this and that. We'll get more to visible light on a future day. Let's push beyond visible light. Do notice this. The first color in the rainbow is red. So they named red's neighbor infrared. And the last color in the rainbow is violet. And that color is, then they named the guy right next to it ultraviolet. So this light is so red you can't see it. This light is so violet you can't see it. Would this actually be red? Would this actually be violet? Your brain decides all that anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we say. It could be anything, could be nothing. It's all up to your brain what color this gets placed into. Ultraviolet, you could code information into it, but ultraviolet, everything from this point on gets more and more dangerous. So we're not going to make remote controls and walkie-talkies, even though you could. out of ultraviolet. You could, but it'd be dangerous. So ultraviolet can cause sunburns and cancer. X-rays, you know what they're for. And they can be used to treat cancer. You can use it, they also can cause cancer. They're bad for cells is the point. They're especially bad for cancer cells. One of the great things, well that's kind of phrased in a weird way. One of the good things about cancer treatments is that cancer cells, even though they can be so aggressive and bad, is that they're very fragile. They're very fragile to radiation. So they're easier to kill. So if you shoot a good cell and a bad cell with radiation, the bad cell will be the one more likely to die. So it's one of those, if a bad thing happens to a bad guy, if a bad thing happens to a bad guy, it's good. So here we have this bad light that we shine at a bad cell, and it's a good thing. It'll shake the cell to death. We just have to have good aim and get them all, and then they die. So cancer cells are fragile and to radiation, and so we zap them in one of our styles of treatments. You can either cut them out, surgically, remove it. You can radiate it out if that's available, if you can get it all. And then the other way, if it's hard to get at or if it's too far everywhere, then you can chemical it out, and that's called chemotherapy. So there's radiation therapy, that's shooting light, radiation is light. There's chemical therapy, chemotherapy, where they just put chemicals in the whole body and they just go everywhere. And that's really hard on the whole body, but it goes everywhere, and so it just bombs all of the cells and hoping to really hurt and kill the cancer cells. And if it's just in one local area that you can get at with a knife, you just cut it out then. So that's, all three of these could be used for that. And then we got gamma rays. Gamma rays have the highest frequency. They're going up and down. They're all moving sideways at the same speed. But you can tell these guys over here, as they're moving sideways, are taking lots of steps along the way. Lots of energy. But they're bumping into things up and down, and so they just crash into things they can't get as far through, as opposed to just sneaking through like these guys can, because they're not bouncing into things like that bull in a china shop. All right. I just want to go through a couple of things. You can look at these questions on your own. It's the same formula as the last unit, where wave speed equals wavelength times frequency. And a light wave is a light wave. A radio wave is a light wave. It's not just radio. Radio uses light to provide the code for the speakers to make the sound, but the radio wave has always been light. All right. And one of the things, you can look at these, it's pretty straightforward, especially when you have the answers there. If you want to pause it, you can. But, all right, one of the great things about this Earth that we have is that it's a cocoon. And you can go down a list of everything that's so wonderful about our planet. We have an ozone layer to protect us from the ultraviolet light. We have an atmosphere and the Van Allen belts, are these magnetic fields that protect us from the X-rays. If it weren't for those lights being blocked, the gamma rays and the X-rays and a lot of the ultraviolet rays, well, we'd be fried. But as those are getting blocked, the rest of them are getting through. We need that input of energy from the sun, otherwise we wouldn't have a water cycle, we wouldn't have a food web. We need that energy, those inputs, and so the right lights get through and the wrong lights mostly pretty much all get blocked. If you want to see some of those lights from outer space, if you want to see some of those X-rays though, coming from the sun, because the sun produces X-rays, plenty of them, they get blocked as I just said. But to see them, you'd have to go beyond our atmosphere and a little bit farther out to see them so they don't get blocked. And so we put telescopes in space to give us a more clean picture of the light. And so these are X-rays coming off the sun. These are X-rays coming off a supernova. Here's an ultraviolet telescope. If you shined your remote control at this telescope, it would see the ultraviolet, that's backwards. I was saying the infrared. But ultraviolet light, this is what gives you your sunburns here. And so as this shines out, We can see the ultraviolets. These are future sunburns waiting to happen. Now they don't actually come off in this color. We don't know what color our eyes would turn it into, so we use software to pick a color, and we program it to be this color in the software. But there it is, the ultraviolet rays coming off the sun. Here's a time lapse. This software makes it green. This is a 2-hour time lapse from 20 years ago. But you know, you can see the little solar flares and blasts from all the nuclear explosions shooting out all, well in this case, ultraviolet light. And all the other lights are being produced too. Radio waves are collected with telescopes that look like this. So this is a radio telescope. So when you have your dish network, which those satellites all point south because that's where those communication satellites are more towards the, you know, the southern hemisphere or over the equator, that kind of ballpark there. But this is how you collect. This is the bucket. This is how you carry your radio waves as they get absorbed into this thing, and then we can harness them and interpret them however they need to be. So more radio telescopes. We put them high up in higher elevations to get a good clean shot at them. Some pretty cool looking things here. This one's in Puerto Rico, just built into the ground. You can't turn this thing, but it just points straight up. And then here's our radio pictures of radio rays coming off of the sun, off of a supernova. Here's an infrared telescope. This is the one I was going to say, if you shot your TV remote at it, it would pick it up and be able to see the light. Here's some in Japan, where you want, if you're not going to put it in space, at least get it way up high into the mountains, so you have less atmosphere above you. And then infrarays coming off of Jupiter, where boys go to get more stupider, right? But the heat produces infrared light, so we can get a picture of heat signature coming off of Jupiter. So there's lots of details we can get off of different kinds of lights. And anyway, there's lots of uses is the point. All right? So I hope that we can get it down to just one video more for this week. See you in a bit.